Welcome students. Now we move on to the next topic called control statements. As we know very well in C programming, a control statement is a statement that controls the execution of a block of statements. Whether the control may be related to repetitive control statement or the conditional control statement, both are same in our Python programming also with little or slight changes. Let us see what are they. The control flow tools. In Python, there are two types of control flow statements. Those are conditional statements or decision making statements and looping statements. Earlier in C programming, we had seen four different types of control statements, like the sequence control statements, the conditional control statements, unconditional control statements, selection control statements, and iterative control statements. There were four different control statements available. But in Python, we have only two types of control flow statements, like conditional statements using the if statement, which is called as decision making statement. And the second one is the looping statement. A loop is a block of statements executed repeatedly until a given condition becomes false. So here we have the looping statements. We see later this one. Let us see first the decision making statement. Conditional statements or decision statements are used when we need to perform different actions depending on whether the specified condition is evaluated to true or false. That means if the given condition is true, what has to be done is specified as a block of statements, and if the condition is false, then what has to be done is specified as separate block of statements. This we had seen in C programming. Once again we see in Python programming. The syntax and the execution procedure is same, maybe a little change in our keywords. Let us see them. The general form of typical decision making structure is, if the condition is true, here if the condition is evaluated, if the condition is true, then the flow continues to bottom. Otherwise, the condition follows to the right side. After completing the process, the false condition or either the true condition, it moves on to the normal sequence of operations. So, here based on true or false cases, the value of the variable, the cases are selected. Python programming language assumes any non-zero and non-null values as true, and if it is either 0 or null, then it is assumed as false value, similar to RC programming. For example, if I write if, say for example x, and if x has a value other than 0, then it is considered as true, otherwise it is treated as false. Similarly in Python, the system will be considering any non-zero value. It may be a negative or positive or any string or character as true, and the null values or zero values are treated as false. Different types of decision making statements are the if statement, the general or simple if statement, the if else statement, which requires two different blocks of statements. If the condition is true, what has to be done, and if the condition is false, what has to be done is specified. Whereas in this case, if the condition is true, then what has to be done is specified only, and the false case is ignored. And the third one, nested if statement. As we have seen, an if statement executed within another if statement is called as a nested if statement. That means if the outer if statement is true, then only the inner if statement is evaluated. Note, Python relies on indentation, that is white space at the beginning of a line, to define scope in the code. Other programming languages often use curly braces for this purpose. That means in our C programming, if followed by the condition, after that more than one statement if need to be executed, we place them under a brace pair. Whereas in Python, only indentation is required. For example, if I write a statement like if followed by some statement or condition, afterwards I give some space, indentation. I use it to use that particular space while writing the program in our C environment. So here just indentation is treated as the block for this if statement instead of curly braces. Now let us see the simple if statement. The if statement contains a logical expression using which data is compared and a decision is made based on the result of the comparison. Syntax is if expression followed by the colon symbol. This is most important in Python. So here the expression must be followed by colon symbol, while in C programming the expression is enclosed in parentheses. If the Boolean expression evaluates to true, then the block of statements inside the if statement is executed. If Boolean expression evaluates to false, then the first set of code after the end of the if statements is executed. That means it is ignored at all. The flowchart is as follows. If the condition is true, then the statement to be executed is followed and it continues to the normal sequence. If the condition is false, it continues to the normal sequence, as we have learnt in C language simple if statement. Example. So it's a simple example code where 1 is equal to 100. 100 is the constant assigned to the variable 1. If var1 means if there exists a value in var1, then we say got true expression value. Print var1. Any number of lines that are given like this indentation. Indentation means a space in the columns. So here it starts in this column, and if I give two spaces and write the corresponding statements under this if statement, they are treated as the block of statements to be executed under this if var1. So if var1 is true, then this one is done. If var2 is assigned to 0, if var2 got a true expression value, var2 goodbye. Here the value is 0. If 0 not equal to 0, the condition is evaluated, but 0 not equal to 0 is false, so it continues to goodbye. The output, if you see, you can get more idea. See the output. In the first case, 100 is assigned, var1 evaluates to true, so 1 got a true expression value. We get the output as 100. In the second case, var2 is assigned to 0, and this 0 is returned as false in if case. Then it continues to the normal sequence, thereby we get the value goodbye. The second example. First we receive a value from the user using raw input and is typecasted using integer type. Int of raw input of please enter an integer. Here two parentheses are given and matching parentheses are also used. And here if x is less than 0, enter only positive number, otherwise say OK. Result, for example, the user has entered the value as 33, the output is enter OK, just simply OK, because the condition is true, not true, sorry, false, then it moves to down. 33 is evaluated to 0. 33 less than 0 is false, so it moves down to 30 normal sequence of operations, so OK is printed. So the output, please enter, suppose the user has entered minus 200, output is please enter only positive number, and OK is also displayed as it is the normal sequence of operations. The next one, if else statements. An else statement can be combined with an if statement. Here the else statement is treated as the false block of the code and the true block is considered or controlled by the if statement. An else statement contains the block of code that executes if the conditional expression in the if statement resolves to 0 or false value. That means if the if statement evaluates to false, then the else block is executed. If the if statement is evaluated to true, the if block is executed. Syntax, see this. If expression followed by colon symbol, statement sequence. Any number of statements can be entered here, and this is treated as the true block. So true block will be selected for execution when the condition is true, and this block we considered as false block. the false block is executed when the corresponding condition is false. And note that here colon symbol is a must in Python. So the flowchart is general, we know this. If the condition is true, control flows to this side. If the condition is false, flows to this side. This is true case and this is false case. Any one of these two blocks is only selected for execution and then continues to normal sequence of operations. Example, if var1 got a true expression, the result value of var1 is printed. Otherwise, got a false expression, the value of var1 is printed. See this, the value entered by the user is 100, we get what do you call, got a true expression 100. If it is minus 100 or 0, then var1 is evaluated to 0. Finally it is going to print it got a false expression. Next we have if else if, not else if, it is another word called elif, else statements. The elif statement allows you to check multiple expressions for true and execute a block of code as soon as one of the conditions evaluates to true. That means if a condition statement is evaluated to false and then I want to verify another condition, then the if else statement doesn't support. In that case we go with the elif statement. In C language we have else space if statement. So that statement is combined using elif, 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 that means else if. See the syntax? If expression 1 is true, the statement is executed and is terminated, and if this condition is false, then control moves to elif, and if this condition is true, this block is executed. Otherwise, if this condition is also false, then it moves to the next elif statement and expression 3 is evaluated. If this is true, then the statement is executed. Afterwards it comes down to the normal sequence of operations. This we have seen in our C programming with the same kind of syntax, except that else space if was used and nowhere we are using parenthesis for the expression. The next one, the flowchart is as follows. See this, test expression 1, if it is true, statement 1 is executed, continues to normal sequence operations. Test 2 is true, then it is executed. Otherwise, if it is false, body of expression. This is no case for the third one. Test 1 true, then statement 1 is executed, continues to normal sequence. Test 1 is false and test 2 is true, statement 2 is selected and continues to normal sequence. Otherwise, test 3 is selected, evaluated, and then if it is true, the statement 3 is selected and continues to normal sequence. Otherwise, if none of the conditions is true, the false case is selected and body of else is executed and statement just below if else statement will be executed. Example, var is a variable that is assigned to 100. If var equal to 200, we display the value of var. See, initially here 100 is compared, 100 equal to 200 is false, so it moves to the second case. Here also var is having 100 equal to 150, false, so it comes to the next case. Var equals to 100, here the value is 100, value of var is 100, 100 equal to 100 is true, so we get the output, got true expression value at third statement. Finally, the value of var 100 is printed. See the output, 3 got a true expression. Finally, goodbye is the normal sequence of operations. The nested if statement. This is one of the most useful statements category we have. In this case, there may be a situation when we want to check for another condition after a condition resolves to true. In such a situation, we can use nested if statements. We have seen this in C language. In a nested if statement, we can have an if, elif, else statement, or another else if statement. An else if statement, or an else if ladder can be used in an else if ladder. An if statement can be used in an else if ladder. An if statement can be used in an if else statement, or an if else statement can be used in an if statement likewise. So nesting of if statements means it can be an if statement can be executed in another if statement. Syntax is as follows. See, this example is with else if ladder. If expression 1 it is true, then the statement is executed and another if statement is evaluated. If this condition is true, then this statement is also executed. If this one is false, then it moves to this else if. And if this condition is also false, it moves to this case. And if it is true, this is executed and this is executed. And it is entirely terminated. So here an if ladder is used within an if else statement. So if this condition is false, for example, if this first expression 1 is false, then it directly jumps to the outer else statement which executes these statements. Similarly, if this expression is true and this expression is false, this expression is false, and this expression is also false, then control directly goes to the else part inside the if statement and the control comes out to normal sequence. This is how we have used in C programming. See the example, var is assigned to 100, 100 less than 200 is true, so expression value is less than 200, then var equal to 150, that means 100 is then compared with 150 to print exact value. So but this one is false, so this condition is evaluated. 100 equal to 100 is true, so which is 100 is also printed. Expression value is less than 200, which is 100, and finally it comes out to goodbye. See the output. So conditional execution, conditionals are of 4 different types: conditional execution, alternative execution, chained conditionals, and nested conditionals. In the first case, conditions change the flow of program execution. If statement is used in conditions. Syntax is if followed by if condition statement 1. And if it is alternative execution, 2 possibilities else is used. If condition is true, execute the true block, otherwise execute the false block. See the same. Then chained condition means the elif ladder. More than 2 possibilities are there. Elif is used. Syntax: if condition is true, statement 1 is selected. Elif, the condition statement 2 is selected, or elif, elif, and so on. Then the last one, nested if statement. Another condition in one condition. Syntax: if condition 1, if condition 2, statement 1, else, statement 2, else, statement 3. So these are the 4 different ways of conditionals available in Python. Thank you. These are the conditional statements we use in Python programming. We don't have any switch case statement in Python.